So I heard in the news yesterday that a lot of Cuban-Americans who are Trump supporters are soon going to be able to order their Cuban sandwiches in Cuba. I'm jelly.
That was too far. That was too far. You leave the Cubanos out of this. Hey, shout out to all of the subscribers and members here on the channel. Don't forget to like the video. My name is Reese Waters, and this is Street Politics. Now, you guys remember the video I just posted about the Latino community coming for Venezuelans in the wake of losing their TPS protections.
Press conference in Doral Monday, Venezuelan Americans denounced the Trump administration and South Florida Republicans.
We will vote. Raise your hands, come on. For Donald Trump. Hey!
I mean, you didn't have to dance. Well, you remember how I ended that video? I told the Cubans to stop dancing because I would be back around for them. You thought you was slick. You thought you were just going to jump on the Donald Trump pile? Nah, man. We ain't forgot. And by the way, Cubans, y'all better stop dancing over there. Because I done addressed Marco Rubio and how he moving with respect to y'all before. We'll be back around here again. Yeah, with good reason. In fact, you might recall the woman who opened that particular video.
And they didn't blame Trump at all for him lifting the TPS, talking about it was unlawful. So how you feeling? How you feeling? Because tú votaste por Trump, right? Tú dijiste, este mi hombre, este mi hombre. He hates you. He hates you. Y no lo entiende, ¿la? Y no te amas. He looks at you as less than a person. So here we are, in which TPS is no longer like a really illegal option. I'm not sure what's going to happen, but now a lot of Venezuelans are going to have to leave. Thank you to all those Trumper Venezuelans.
Well, guess what? She's back for the Cubans as well.
So my husband's family is from Georgia, and they have a particular phrase when somebody screws themselves over. They said, well, you screwed the pooch on that one. And I think that phrase right there is very fitting for what the Venezuelans and Cubans are going through at this moment. Yeah, they definitely screwed the pooch by voting for Donald Trump. Eso pendejo nunca aprende. And I think the funniest videos that I've always made has been on those Miami Cubans that are always crying, getting upset because we put billboards talking about Donald Trump. And they're like, oh my God, this is going against America. And we have told them time and time again that Donald Trump does not like you. You are still an other. But they thought that white proximity was just going to buy them a little bit of freedom, I guess. But what makes matters worse, guys, what makes matters worse, you guys are not understanding how entrenched in the cult they are. They have their own Cubans that are not citizens, basically funding Trump's campaign, grassroots campaigning, praising Donald Trump. And the same goes for Venezolanos. Their TPS status because Biden allowed them. Biden is the chance that they were over here. And same thing, they were giving money to his campaign. They were pushing Trump, all in a fucking cult. And now your asses are on the list in which he wants to implement a travel ban. What's on there? Cuba and Venezuela. That to me is outstanding, that you are not even a citizen and you are pushing Donald Trump's rhetoric. Why did you even think you were special? Well, you screwed the pooch on that one. It's funny, but not funny. And P.S., this is not meant for those Venezuelans that absolutely voted blue. You guys have a great day.
And when it comes to savagery from inside the community, she wasn't alone.
So I heard in the news yesterday that a lot of Cuban-Americans who are Trump supporters are soon going to be able to order their Cuban sandwiches in Cuba. I'm jelly.
That was too far. That was too far. You leave the Cubanos out of this. And the Cuban coffee. Let's dig in, shall we?
The administration announced Friday they're revoking legal status of 500,000 migrants who came here legally from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela during President Biden's terms. This is another fight they wanted to have. But if the stated intention is to go after the worst of the worst and deport them, why focus on people who bothered to be here legally?
Well, the administration would argue that the Biden administration abused its immigration executive authority to create this program without Congress, and that the people who came here under this policy are undercutting American workers, and that they are essentially illegal immigrants as well. And now they are turning them into illegal immigrants by stripping them of their legal status, their work permits, or deportation protections. Right now, they have, for the next 30 days, a chance to self-deport through a smartphone app. If they don't do that, DHS is warning that they will be found, arrested, and deported from the country. And this crackdown on immigration by the administration is also extending to other parts of the immigration system. We also know that the administration is suspending funding, federal funding, for legal services providers and lawyers who help migrant children who have left federal custody or who are still in federal custody and who are facing deportation.
And this is all intentional, that taking funding away even from migrant kids?
This administration does not believe that federal funds should be used for people who are in the country illegally or without legal permission.
Now, let me break that down for you. Once they went with, we believe that the Biden administration has abused the system and we want to rectify things, then they went and granted themselves the ability to determine who is and who isn't here legally. And y'all knew that, and you still empowered this man. Let's also talk about the fact that other aspects of the immigration system are going to be affected by this as well. Because you remember how you guys were once a protected class? Is that what they called it? Florida's Cubans, once a protected class, face new immigration threats. Cubans have been granted special status since the Cold War. That suddenly changed, leading to a sense of betrayal among a staunchly Republican group. Yeah, about that special status protected class you used to have.
Just ordered the deportation of 500,000 Cuban, Venezuelan, and Haitian immigrants that came here the right way. And my question for my fellow Cubans is, are y'all still feeling special? My entire childhood was spent being fed the narrative that our family came here the right way and that everybody else that's complaining about being deported, well, they just need to go back to where they came from, start the process over legally. I don't want to ever hear another Cuban American say some shit like that ever again. I'm going to laugh in your face. Maybe you all will finally realize that no matter how much you try to blend into white Western European culture, no matter how much you try to pretend that you don't eat ham croquettes for breakfast and that you've never had ajiaco for dinner in your entire life, the problem is that Donald Trump is never going to see you as human.
I'm sorry. Did she say ham croquettes for breakfast? Y'all supposed to have special status eating like that?
It's always been about racism. Here's the part that we like to talk about in our homes when no one else is listening, but I'm going to go ahead and say that quiet part out loud. You all think that you are better than every other type of Latino American. Conservative Cuban Americans, MAGA Cuban Americans, think that you are better than every other flavor of Latino American. And now we have proof. You are no different. We are no better than anybody else. No matter how many times you place your vote for Donald Trump and the Republican Party, they are still going to see you as subhuman.
Now, we have seen this energy before when it came to others in the Latino community addressing the Cubans specifically as the top ops. We have been around here before. And the thing about that energy, when you put it out, it comes back around tenfold when your pick-me behavior comes home to roost. And pick-me behavior always comes home to roost.
Amelia, did y'all hear about this? Cubanos that have historically supported the Republican Party and have been pretty outspoken about supporting Trump are now more vulnerable than ever. But let's talk about this. For many decades, people that had left Cuba came to the United States and were protected from deportations. Their anti-Castro, anti-communist perspective, anti-socialist aligned very well with the Republican Party, and they embraced that identity when they arrived to places like Florida. But under the current administration, many protections that existed have been revoked, and many people in that community are facing fear and uncertainty about what's going to happen next. Honestamente, I know for many folks it's gonna be hard to feel bad because in many ways, they were asking for this for other communities. And it makes sense that they feel betrayed because they were supporting this, not expecting it to affect them. Let me add one more thing.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to stop you there, player. No, I'm gonna have to stop you there, player, because they saw exactly how the administration was moving. And as you yourself seated, they were expecting it to affect other communities, but not them. So why do you have the right to feel betrayed when you wanted to have other folks be raided? You didn't have a problem when other folks had their very legitimate legality and status in this country questioned and publicly wiped away by folks running to occupy the White House. That was okay. So you saw all of that and you were fine with the state of play. They gave you all of the information. That ain't a betrayal. That's just karma. And by the way, that is exactly how pick-me behavior ends. Every time.
Let me add one more thing. Cuban exiles in the United States are not a monolith, so of course not all of them were pro-deportation, but the ones that were happen to be the louder voices. I know many people in the community that have been talking about this aren't going to feel any sympathy, essentially saying they effed around and found out. I for one think it's sad. The idea of people losing their livelihood and being deported is just inhumane.
Now, I do happen to agree with you on that point. I can simultaneously reflect on the unbelievable irony that befalls so many Cubans for Trump, and also object to the way that they're handling their business and the inhumane treatment of a great number of people. And I also see that not everybody asked for this. But on that point of betrayal, because you mentioned betrayal, right? They feel betrayed. So how exactly should the Latinos that didn't vote for this feel? How should the Cubans that didn't vote for this feel? How should the Haitians feel? How about this? How should other citizens, myself included, of this country feel when we have our rights and our freedoms challenged and limited by virtue of empowering this administration because specific groups couldn't act in their own best interest? How exactly should we feel, especially when prior to the election, at the time of the election, and even after the election, we were giving voice in opposition to the way that they approached your community?
The president's immigration crackdown now has a new group of immigrants on edge. In recent days, some who were once protected under a humanitarian parole program initiated during President Biden's tenure are now facing potential deportation. For clarity on how the uncertain future is shaping up now for Cuban exiles and other groups seeking refugees status in the United States, we are joined by Jorge Duane, former director of the Cuban Research Institute at Florida International University. Jorge, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
So, Jorge, this was a pretty stunning turn here. Cubans in Miami particularly, there is an outsized population there that supports the Republican Party. Why do you suppose that there is this reversal in terms of trying to send some Cuban-Americans, Cubans back to Cuba?
Yeah, as you say, Cuban Americans have supported the Republican Party for many decades, and in fact, in the last poll sponsored by my university, by Florida International University, 68% of Cuban Americans intended to vote for President Trump. However, many of them have been disappointed because there are more than 110,000 Cubans now who arrived in the U.S. under the humanitarian parole program authorized by the Biden administration, and that program has been canceled.
Yeah. So I believe the word was betrayal, right? So I mentioned the betrayal of the other Latino communities. I mentioned the betrayal of regular citizens. How about the betrayal of Biden? How should Joe Biden feel when it was his program that allowed a great number of you to come in for you guys to turn around and decide you're going to vote for Donald Trump and the party with the mass deportation signs? How exactly should he feel? And when I was here and I was having these conversations about the Cuban voting patterns, and we talked about how leaving Cuba left them with real negative feelings about socialism and about Castro and how that aligned itself with the Republican Party. And one of the things I said was, I struggle with that because what I understand as the primary opposition to the Castro regime was its authoritarian nature. So I don't understand how, no matter what level of what degree of fascism he could be floating out to you when it comes to deploying the military on citizens, or when it comes to repression of free speech, or when it comes to you'll never have to vote again, all things that were said and well publicized prior to the election. So that wasn't a problem. But yeah, no socialism.
So with this change, and we're talking about a decades-long, they've enjoyed this privilege, Cubans that have come to the United States, as long as they've touched dry land, many of them coming over on boats, making that 90-mile journey from Cuba to the Florida Keys and other parts of Florida. As long as they hit dry land, they are granted granted protection here in the United States. They supported the Republican Party for many decades. So how are they feeling now? What is the sense that you're getting from the folks who may be affected by this?
I think it's a very ambivalent position of the Cuban American community now, because on the one hand, as I just said, the vast majority supported President Trump. On the other hand, they also supported the humanitarian parole program, and their rights and benefits in this country since the Cold War are now being threatened, because even though there's a law, the Cuban Adjustment Law, that was approved in 1966, which allows Cubans to stay in the country after 1 year and 1 day of residence here, now that benefit also is being threatened. So there are many thousands, in addition to the 100,000 who are now whose parole status has been canceled, who don't really know what to expect, whether they can become residents or, in fact, be forced to live as undocumented workers in this country.
Well, one thing I can tell you is that the employment prospects are getting slimmer and slimmer every day. But one thing that I can absolutely tell you is they finna drag you. They finna drag you. And this is coming from inside the community. All right. These are private conversations that done leaked out.
Administration says that as soon as next month, they're going to be ending the legal status of more than 500,000 migrants from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela. If they don't leave before losing that status, they could be targets for deportation. So these migrants were allowed into this country legally under a program from the Biden administration.
If there ever was a definition of fuck around and find out, we have just found it. Where are my Miami Cubans at, huh? Where are you guys at? Because you guys were loud and proud back then. Where are you at now? He had you all fooled, saying that the deportations were only for the bad people, the unalivers, the grapists, the ones bringing drogas into the country, right? He had you guys so fucking fooled. It was only the bad people. And now you guys fucked around and found out because you voted him in, and now look it. Y'all thought because your skin was light enough that you were going to get away with the deportations. But now that it's affecting you all, you're all on the internet boo-hooing and crying. Why are we going back to this country? Why are you sending me back? I did this the right way. He doesn't give a shit. When are you going to learn? If you're brown, if you speak Spanish, he wants you fucking gone. Gone. And now you fuck around and you found out.
We tried to tell you. Now we tried to tell you, and you don't want to hear from us. Maybe you'll help hearing it from your own.
Where are my Miami Cubans at? Stand up for what you supported in 2024. Stand up for what you supported. Oh, you thought he wasn't talking about you, right? He wasn't talking about you. He was talking about the illegals. Even though we tried to tell you, if your skin color was brown and you talk Spanish, he wants you out of the country. You thought, oh, he's not talking about me. We tried to warn you. The mass deportations in U.S. history affect communities of color indiscriminately. How do they know if you're undocumented or not? They're going to harass you. So even revoking legal status for 500,000 Cubans, Haitians, Nicaraguans, and Venezuelans, how are they going to find out which ones just lost their legal status? Where are they going to find them? They're going to be searching these neighborhoods, as they have been already. You know, when I moved from Michigan to Florida, I was young, naive. I didn't know what had happened in 2000, but I was shocked when I learned that Cubans in Miami were Republicans, because coming from Michigan, I knew who the Republicans were, and they couldn't stand the Cubans. And it's like, you're voting for people who can't stand you. They tolerate you because you stay in Miami and you're not venturing out to Iowa. You're not venturing out into the Midwest to realize that the people you're supporting want you out of their country. FAFO. But stand up and own what you supported. Round of applause. Greatness is here. Enjoy it.
Dear Cuban-Americans, the ones that were eligible to vote, the ones that had their green card and citizenship here in the United States, I just came across that video, and even for you, my heart just breaks. Because it talks about them going to the markets and there is no food there. And then they come here and they see a Walmart filled with food and they don't even know how to behave. And I don't know how you could have voted for this, celebrated this, sung about this, knowing that you were voting for a dictator because he told you he was going to be a dictator. And I expected you firsthand to know the difference. To know the difference because you come from a country that has a dictator. And I don't know how you could have done this to your own people. That now there's no chance for anyone else from your country to come here or from your island. And a lot of you will be returning because citizenship is on the chopping block, but I told you that before the election.
That is the impassable truth for me when it comes to Cubans and their vote. It's insane. They looked and heard. Like, forget all of the mass deportation and the anti-brown rhetoric and the blatant racism that we put out there, which is wild that was missed as well. Let's not let that go unaddressed. But if anybody should have been able to pinpoint dictatorial nature, dictatorial rhetoric, dictatorial intention, it would be y'all. You're the ones that are objecting to it and fleeing it in the first place. Now, don't think just because the people from inside the community had so much to say that it was only them, because that is not the case.
Well, Smarty Pants is here again. Sir, I just didn't go through the list of what Trump is canceling. TPS, CAA, parole, humanitarian. Aren't those the benefits that benefit you guys and is requiring for you to leave and your status is being canceled? Does that change the fact that your vote betrayed you? Obviously, your mind is betraying you as well. Because here you are. Every 5 seconds, I see your comments. That has no relevance. It doesn't contradict the fact that your vote betrayed you. I hope you're a citizen, because you're here fighting tooth and nail. And if you're a citizen, you don't have any criminal records. I really hope so. Because otherwise, sir, you need to be fighting to find out how the hell you're going to keep your ass here. Why the hell are you coming and attacking me? I didn't vote for Trump. I'm not part of your cause as to why the whole nonsense is happening. I actually was here every single day sharing and providing information to make sure you understood what it is that was at stake. I mean, obviously, look what you do. You're still here in denial, trying to comment things. Why the hell do I care? CAA, TPS, humanitarian parole, all the same type of program. Different for individual, country, or region. But guess who Trump is bringing, or already brought? In a private charter at that white South African. Is you white? Is you white? Why the hell are you here bothering the hell out of my life? Good morning.
You know, sometimes I wish social media was just an in-person conversation, because I would love to hear the answers to those questions. And to the part that she posed about being here and sharing information, trying to help prevent this kind of scenario for you, that is what I would call a betrayal. Especially when now we're affected by the consequences of your actions. Now that is a betrayal. I can't believe that. They didn't see this with this man. I mean, we don't like dictators. It's like leaving your job at UPS because you don't want to drive and getting hired at FedEx. Like, that made sense to you?
Yo voy a votar por Donald Trump, pero que dura me la.
Hey, special shout out to everybody who joined me at our last Members Live. I done lost weeks of my life watching the most ratchet content you can ever imagine. That's just, I feel like it's a palate cleanser for me. Now, we're going to be doing a whole lot more of these. It is available to everybody who's in deep water or troubled water, and there's a link to membership in the description box to all of the videos. This is, of course, in addition to my regular Tuesday lives every week at 8 p.m. It's the irony of all the sinning that's going on in administration. They don't pay attention to it, and they put the chief of sinner among us. Like, the chief sinner among us is the one that's supposed to be spreading this Christian nationalism. And that's wow. You know what I mean? Like, what a comment on our world today. Now, speaking of troubled waters, we have a very deep and growing archive of content, even some old stand-up clips. Although I call it stand-up. I don't know if the people that were actually there would call it comedy at all. I am happy to be here on the last weekend. Period. But we haven't actually added to the archive in a couple of months, and we're going to rectify that over the next few weeks, which makes this a perfect time to binge watch old videos if that is your preference, or you can join Troubled Waters and get a look at what the full archive complement actually looks like. And for those of you that are already members, I did post the links to the free trial for Patreon in the community tab, so make sure you check those out as well. Now, before I go, I would like to send a plea out to the ancestors. I see y'all on the rampage, and it has even come here home to D.C. I have no idea who used to own my home. I don't, and I am not responsible. I don't even know them. I got nothing to do with them. So I don't know if you want what you want me to do. You want me to put something on the door or leave a light on? upstairs or just y'all send me a sign. You know what I mean? Just let me know what I need. You know what I mean? Put Soul Brother, Black Owned, like, tell me something.